Evil! Evil! Look at them! They're so horrible and evil! Do not let it be seen! Okay guys, sorry about that. Had to start off giving you the proper YouTube warning so that no one would get scared once they realize what we're looking at here on the table. Here we have the dinosaur head patch we just come out with, guys. This is for TiborasaurusRex for the channel. We're going to give this to the Patreon guys, the guys who subscribe to that. We're going to start moving a lot of our controversial and evil items over to the Patreon account so that we have a little more freedom to do that in the future. That's kind of our battle plan. We'll see how it goes with the YouTube rollout. As long as they let us play on there, we'll do that too, guys. But what we're going to look at today here is just a really quick preview. I'm going to attempt in all my best capacity to do this quick peek quickly in like 10 minutes, okay? We're going to look at the Sharps Rifle Company Extreme Bolt Carrier Group. And for comparison purposes, we got the standard Colt bolt carrier group here, just to kind of look at the different design features, okay? So let's take a look real quick here. One of the things you're going to notice right off a glance is the design of the lugs on the Sharps Rifle Company is quite a bit different than on the standard mil-spec Colt bolt carrier group and pretty much all the other ones. Here's a Model 1 Sales, same deal, right? Kind of got the square corners on there, right? This one is tapered. And it's tapered quite a bit radically, actually, too. If you can see that, there are actually, it's kind of, you got rounded corners and surfaces. A lot of times what you're going to find is, especially if you have a failure of a case or a primer and you're clearing out the weapon, sometimes you get little shards of fragments of debris inside the chamber where it's going to lock up these lugs. And that can hang this stuff up like really bad. Like it can really get stuck. Also, if you have a lot of dust, especially combined with over-lubrication, which actually is a thing. A lot of guys say it's not. Over-lubrication isn't bad if it's perfectly clean oil under normal temperatures. But if it's especially cold temperatures with oil that gets really, really, really bogged down with grit and dust, they'll sludge up real bad. And a design like this is kind of designed to defeat that. Also, of course, your grit and your sand and all kinds of stuff like that, your mud. So that's kind of what this is designed to help with, is getting through really, really, really dirty chambers. And so that's one external characteristic. We'll go over the metallurgy after a minute here. Now let's look at some of the other obvious characteristic differences. On top here you can see we have the gas key and the staking. That's one thing I actually look at right away. You'll see that the Sharps bolt carrier group is actually staked, but it's not to the degree that you're going to see on a Colt. If you can see the difference here, the Colt really pinches it in there, stakes it pretty hard. What they're looking for is they don't want these attachment lugs to walk out. That's one thing that if it comes loose is catastrophic failure of the weapon, right? And so on this, they are staked. It's not as radical as on the Colt. I actually like to kind of overdo it on that detail myself. But it's actually, looks like we'll see how that works. I'm curious to see if they will hang in there. Also, if you look at the rear end, which we always like looking at the rear end of things, guys, right? We have on the Sharps Rifle Company bolt carrier group, you're going to see there's a bit more meat in the back here, and it's actually a larger diameter than on the standard mil-spec group, just slightly larger. The idea here is they're trying to keep this deal aligned, okay? You have your contact surfaces here where it slides along. I don't know if you can see where these protrusions are right here and here. That's where it actually is sliding inside the receiver, likewise on top, but also now in the back as well. That's to keep the bolt aligned this way. Gravity is going to pull it down in the front or in the back. As this thing's cycling back and forth, you're going to have differential erosion inside the receiver based on exactly which way this thing is tilted. And you'll have uneven wear in there, which will also cause kind of a drastic increase in friction on a standard carrier group where they're tilted a little bit and off balance a little bit. And so this back here is designed to kind of keep it on center. Also, you're going to notice the material has been removed, not really for stylized purposes. Here we have a round bolt carrier right here, and here it's kind of flattened out. You see that? Also on the side, here you don't see any kind of flute, but here you have this groove cut out. And here you have some holes cut. And here it's solid, right? So what they're doing is they're redistributing the weight of this to be engineered so that it's totally running flat inside the receiver to minimize wear. That'll also decrease the amount of lubrication you need and increase the performance under less than ideal circumstances is the idea there. So that's some of the main differences. If you look at the bottom, you're not going to see a huge amount of differences. They're kind of the same conventional design, functionally speaking. We can talk about metallurgy, though, now. That's something that a lot of guys are curious about. In some of the initial reviews, these have been around for a few years, guys. In some of the initial reviews, these had issues with the heat treatment process. This is actually S7 tool steel, which, depending on any kind of steel, exactly how you heat treat it will totally change the properties. So you can't go out, you can't get the specifications performance-wise off of steel just on the kind of steel it is alone. You have to also look at the heat treatment processes. So we'll start off with the bolt. It says S7 tool steel, and it is shot peened. This is going to be like a carpenter steel, right? 158, which is good too. But this is going to be, if it's heat treated properly, it's going to be a heck of a lot better. The bolt carrier also itself is S7 tool steel, which is shot peened and DLC coated. The gas key is 4130 steel attached with grade 8 hardware. If you look at the firing pin, I'm not going to pull them out right now. We'll do that in the comprehensive review. It's actually hard chrome coated, obviously. That's going to be an important feature. The extractor is 4340 steel, manganese phosphate coated. The ejector is S7 shot peened and manganese coated. The extractor pin is S7. It has a mil-spec extractor and ejector springs, firing pin, retaining pin, and gas rings. Okay, so that's all standard. It's batch MPI and HPT tested. And tensile strengths of around 1,550 to maybe 1,600 MPa, or 200,000. What is that? What is it going to be? 220,000 to 240,000, 235,000 psi, something like that. The toughness of over 200 foot-pound. On the Sharpie C-notch, almost doubling the previous generation bolts that they had originally. This is all due to the heat treatment process being refined a little bit, okay? Also, the HRC of 46 yields a 15% increase in hardness at the same toughness comparing to Carpenter 158 and 9310. So when we're talking about the coating, the DLC coating is like a diamond-like carbon coating. It's very, very hard. It has a very, very high hardness just on the outside. So on the inside, you got really, really good tensile strength with the S7 steel, especially with the new, I think they run through like a 24-hour cycle in terms of the heat treatment. So they actually got this more of it in a bainite tool steel kind of a heat treatment job, which is very, very, very tough and very strong. And with the DLC coating, you have the hard outer surfaces. It's like very hard. I think the Rockwell is like 70 or 80. It's pretty darn hard, actually. And of course, this fits all your standard 5.56 rounds, 25, 45 sharps, 300 blackout, stuff like that. And they have a lifetime warranty with absolutely no questions asked. They just totally replaced that without even worrying about it. So why S7 steel, guys? So if you look at S7 steel, if it's done with the proper heat treatment, it's going to have 75% increase in tensile strength. Like a 60% improvement in yield strength and a 15% increase in hardness over your Carpenter 158 steel. So that's like quite a lot better in terms of how tough this thing is. And if you watch some of the old videos by, I think it was Iraqi veteran 888, when he did his M16 meltdown video, I believe this is what he was running, was his bolt carrier group in there. And it held up pretty good there. Some of the testing they've had done with some other outfits was over 20,000 rounds without any kind of problems. So they're pretty darn tough in terms of the engineering spec sheet. What I'm looking forward to do is run this thing through its paces on a Mark 18, and I'm going to get it really, really dirty, see how that performs that way, and then of course over the life of the rifle we'll see how it compares. The bolt carrier group is something that does eventually fail if you get enough use out of them, but for most people's applications with standard use, they're going to last like forever, like lifetimes. For most people, unless you're like a full-time shooting guy, like some of us are, you might maybe see some of that stuff start to fail after time. But I'm curious to see how these guys got these things put together, man. I know that Scharf's Rifle Company has quite a legendary reputation, especially back in the day. And it seems like they're paying very close attention to the details and trying to get it exactly perfect. Like I said before, there were some issues originally on the heat treatments on the very first batch that came out that kind of made people have some questions. But in terms of getting that fixed, what I've heard is they've done a pretty good job. And so we are going to see. We're going to verify that. So stay tuned for the full review on this after we get this situated on our Mark 18, and we will give you the full upload of information.
But she hits me, disassembles my leg. So I went to the doctor and he gave me a leg. Now she waits, some of us are dreaming, that hope that she kills instead of leaving the name. Cause she's a minefield, she pops your body from the soul. Minefield, leave a big smoking hole.